Attention! The National Weather Service has issued a hurricane warning for the entirety of the National Hockey League. Please stay tuned for further information from the Storm Cellar.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Storm Cellar. It's a chilly morning in the cellar. The heat is on, but there's snow on the ground all over the place. A little bit for me, and probably a little more for Ray. Can you beat an inch of snow, Ray?
Well, it certainly looks. I'm looking out the window. It certainly looks like it's trying, and our forecast is calling for a little bit of snow every day this week, even though the temperatures are a little above zero. So this is kind of a weird situation, but it's snowing to beat the band here today. Like, I'm looking out the window, and it's significant, And here's the thing: this snow arrives just in time because a lot of the previous snow had melted away. Like, there's whole areas that were all green, and now, kapow, there it is. The snow comes back to cover everything up, and this is kind of how it is in Calgary, right? It just the snow drops in, melts away, drops in, melts away. It just not.
You say zero, and I'm like that's plenty cold for snow until my brain kicks in and says, "Oh yeah," unless you're talking about Celsius.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So, yeah, kind of a snowy and I want to say bleak looking out there.
It's
kind of
ominous
bleak
here.
looking
it's
out
gray.
there.
Very gray.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, this is the type of weather you would have expected, on Thursday for obvious reasons. But we'll get into that. We've got lots to break down today and stuff. We are looking at the possibility of a guest. The Storm Cellar is always open, and they can drop in whenever they like. And we're hoping that we've got a guest coming in. But if it doesn't happen, don't worry. We've got lots to talk about.
It won't be the
lot
first
to
time.
talk about. Yeah, 100%. So let's get at it. And I'll throw this at you. How do you want to do this? Do you want to start with the good and then go to the awful, or how do you want to work it out?
Yeah, let's start. Let's start with Mr. Staal and Aho getting his 6th hat trick, which moves him into 6th place, or actually ahead of Jeff O'Neill, I think it was, who was in 6th place, and he's now in 5th place, all-time goals for the Hurricanes.
It's just unbelievable. And he passed a few other former Hurricanes in their, hat trick collection, hat trick nights and so forth. He stepped past Eric Cole. He's got more than Eric Cole had as well. There's a few other players that he's passing, and he's climbing. There's 3 left that he has not passed. And you know what? Just
Over
for fun,
tricks? Oh boy.
for hat tricks. And I'll let you guess. And you know what? They probably not that hard. 2 of them would not be too hard to figure out.
So for 2, I got to go Eric Staal.
Yeah.
Kevin Dineen.
Oh, no. But
No.
Kevin Dineen is one of the ones he's passed.
Okay, and he's catching Kevin. Kevin's 3rd all time in goals for the franchise.
Yeah, amazing.
Ron Francis was never a big goal scorer, but he's number 1 in franchise history. So I got to say Ron Francis.
Ron Francis, that's correct for the other one. But now there's one other one, and you're going to have to go way back in the time machine, way back. Like,
did this person ever play for the Hurricanes, or was he
never?
Solely? No, okay, so I was thinking Jeff Sanderson.
Sanderson is one of the ones he's passed. This is going to be tough.
What about does this person work for ESPN now?
I'm not sure.
Oh.
I don't. I don't.
I was thinking Ray Farrow. What about Turgeon?
No.
Okay,
this is very, very tough. Very tough.
Yeah,
And I mean
I'm
like
kind of
really
out.
early whalers. Blaine Stoughton.
And
Blaine Stoughton is the other one.
I was gonna ask you because I know Blaine is I think fourth all time in goals, but it's
Yeah,
not a name. And
it
until
is.
I looked it up, like until I was looking up who had goal, that was not a name that's come up really.
Yeah.
And even in researching for the other podcasts, like we haven't gotten up to his era yet. So
Hmm.
that is not a name I am familiar with.
Yeah, Blaine Stoughton was another one. He was I mean, he was a team scoring leader there for at least a couple of years. He was just he was kind of the sharpshooter of the team until you know, until Ronnie Francis came along. You know what I mean? Like he was really the star of the team that they kind of built around. And Stoughton was great. Stoughton was great. So there
I,
you go.
I like to learn. I
uh,
will do a little research on Blaine.
there you go. So you certainly you did fantastic. Those are the three that he has yet to pass as far as as far as the hat tricks go. And he was just sensational. Everything about Aho for me, it's why he plays that 200-foot game. And his second goal last night was the one that really solidifies everything about him because and Rod kind of pointed it out after the in the interviews after the game where he's sneaky quick, you know, and 1 second you've got the puck on your stick and you're about to make that exiting pass, right? And then the next half second, Aho's in front of you with the puck going in alone. Like that, he just
Mm-hmm.
showed up out of nowhere and he's great defensively. And that shot, like
It's a beaut.
that, it was,
I mean,
it was
it was like the
fantastic.
Wedgwood one from a few weeks ago. I mean, it wasn't
Yes,
quite as egregious as poor Wedgwood getting hung out to dry, but
it was a great, yeah, the forecheck and he's got a keen sense of where the puck is going to be and where the play is going. And he positions himself in the right spots to, either break down an offensive threat or he can find the open positions to score. How about in that one in the Vancouver game? I'm going to go back to the Vancouver game mostly because of Teravainen and Aho. Teravainen gets a pass in along the boards and kind of just out of nowhere throws it in front because Aho is streaking. Like he is flying down the center of the ice. And Teravainen finds him just beautifully. And there's another goal. That should have been the game winner. We'll
mm-hmm.
say that. It should have been the game winner and didn't end up being that. And I just Sebastian Aho. It's why I regard him in the same category as Ron Francis. It just his full, complete style and effort. This is the type of player that he is.
Mm-hmm.
This is why I love him.
And put him back over a point per game for the season.
Yep.
Last night too, and it was one of those games. Unfortunately, it was another game I didn't really get to watch. I was only able to catch the highlights. My recording of the game didn't work. But I mean, Jordan Staal on those first couple, right?
Oh.
That the heater from Chatfield just playing first pair of minutes with Slavin out.
Breathe, cat.
Puts a right in, puts a right on net, and Jordan gets the tip, and then just big hustle right on that second goal. And Ray texted me, and I'm like, oh, like 2-0, like this is what I asked for. If they're going to make Sorokin an all-star over a certain Marty Necas, then light him up.
Yep.
And I like the fish sticks. I shouldn't say I like them. I have a soft spot for the Islanders, in part because of how much I dislike the Rangers and the Devils. I think that's part of it. In the New York Islanders, at least now, are the also-rans of New York. This isn't the 80s anymore. That's been a long time.
Yep.
But, they got some guys on their team that I think are, legit folks, right? And the the other thing that I come back to kind of in the same vein is I felt bad for Swedish Sebastian Aho last night.
Oh, yeah.
Who actually scored goal number was it Aho, it was Aho's first goal, right?
Well, Aho's first goal, they think that they both touched the puck at the same.
Yeah.
They both kind of touched the puck at the same time. So you might be able to, as a goaltender, you might be able to stop one Aho, but there's no way you're stopping two.
A couple Ahos are dangerous.
Yeah, very, very, very dangerous. So yeah, that was that was a great goal. And again, the assist to Turbo on that one, who threw it to the front of the net. They're starting to get that connection back. I don't know if
that's huge.
Maybe I'm jumping the gun here a little bit out of based on just a couple of plays, but they're starting to find each other now, and
we all forget. Tavo's always kind of been a second half guy. Like he's always been kind of a slow starter. And so we've seen little flashes of it, and now they're a little more frequent, of that connection. And I think that's just how he kind of rolls. I don't know if there's a reason for it, but it certainly feels like that's a step in the right direction. You know what I mean?
Absolutely it is. Absolutely it is.
So that was a big one, I thought.
Yeah, a great game last night against an important team that had to be beat. These points are more important than other games. You know what I mean? As we've always said, right? The Islanders fighting hard to try to climb into the playoffs, and we need to keep them pressed down. Keep winning those Metro games. Keep winning the Metro games and extend your lead.
First game in a while, the defense didn't score a goal. I mean, Chatfield, might have had that one without the deflection anyway, but hey, if you can tip it in, right? Make sure you
100%.
Get it. Chatfield and Burns both get assists. Brady Shea was kept off, the scoreboard last night. Dylan Coughlin didn't really factor into the highlights, but I also didn't see anybody on social media tearing into him. So I'm guessing that his game was good enough last night. He only played 12 minutes, which was almost 3 minutes left in Dahan. So they definitely weren't relying on him heavily, but he was able to hold the line. So
yes,
that's okay. I mean, I'll take it. I'll take it for now for a 7th guy, right? Just hold the line. Don't do anything boneheaded.
It's you know what? It's funny and sad a little bit that when when someone asks you after the game, how did Coughlin look? And my response was, I didn't really notice him on the ice. And that's a good thing. You know what I mean? Like he had 3 shots on net, but he didn't do anything egregious. He played his part as part of the third pairing and did it well. You know what I mean? No major mistakes, smart play. Like that's what you want out of your third guy. But how about Chats filling in for Slavin? Now that is not easy, especially
that's a tough draw.
It is a tough draw, especially considering who the partner is. Burnsy has made me pretty frustrated defensively for a number of times this season. And now Chats was given the job of kind of being the defensive-minded dude in that group. You know what I mean? Like Burns is not the greatest defensive defenseman. He's just not. And the proof by what happened in the Vancouver game. A minute left and he got caught. Basically, it's like he was playing duck, duck, goose. You know what I mean? Besser tagged him and said goose and took off around the net, and Burns followed him and never should have left the front of the net. if he doesn't leave the front of the net, that puck doesn't get out front, and there's not that extra double whack to score the goal. There's just too many times where he gets caught chasing people or chasing the puck away from his position, and it's too much.
Yeah,
So Chatfield, basically, he comes in there and does a great job. He got a little over 20 minutes, and magnificent. He played very, very well, and lots of great he was great defensively, positionally. He displayed that speed every now and again when he needed to. I mean, what more do you need? He gets in on the first goal with that assist. I mean, come on now. Chat's fantastic.
Yeah. To kind of go, so we're kind of going to slide this into the Thursday night game. Patches is out, right? At this point, I think everybody in Canes land knows Patches tore his right Achilles the second time. As soon as you saw it, you just kind of knew, if you've watched enough sports, you just kind of see it, and like he's grabbing, like he didn't, it wasn't a cut or a bump or anything. He just, went to push off and couldn't and grabbed it, right?
Yeah.
Not to dismiss Patches and what he's going through, because I feel especially awful for him personally, because it seems like he really likes it here. It seems like his family's here. He's a UFA in the year. I don't know if he'll be back. I would love to see him maybe get a 1-year deal with the team, obviously at a reduced rate, to see if he can still play. Because what we saw in 5 games was awesome.
Yes.
And I wonder if he just rushed himself back, but you don't want to blame him either. But to circle this back around to the game in Aho, I was disappointed when I saw him hurt, both for him and for the team. The team is second in the league without Patches. I mean, yes, he played 5 games. He scored 3 goals, but, even without those 3 goals, the team is second in the league.
Yeah.
Do they want to get better at the trade deadline? Yes. And I want to come back to that. Tom will be joining us here in a little bit. I'd like to save that for Tom, but just to kind of throw it out there, like, it's okay, right? With Patches being hurt, the team is still clicking. The power play still went 0 for 3. That has to be fixed. You cannot go into the power play. I'm sorry, you cannot go into the postseason with a power play that bad and expect to win.
Abysmal.
Ask Florida, because Florida might be sellers, right? Jeez. And actually, there's somebody on their team that I actually would maybe take a look at. So, now it's not all doom and gloom.
Yeah, and now the Panthers are on a bit of a heater. They're starting to play a lot better. They're getting results. They're winning games. It was funny that the statement was that Florida made the trades that they did going into the season to make themselves more of a playoff team to deal with, the Lightning, if they should happen to face the Lightning again. The problem is you have to get into the playoffs first before you can actually play a playoff game.
Yeah, I mean, right now they're out looking in.
They are out looking in, and they looked really bad. They looked real for the longest time. Now they've gotten their wins recently, so they're crawling back up, but they had a long way to go, a very long way to go. And can they win at the about 750 clip that they had to? I think it was a 700, or they have to put up a 700 clip the rest of the season to make it in. So are they there? I don't know. And they may actually be sellers, which no one would have suspected.
They're 2 points out, but Pittsburgh has 3 games in hand.
Yeah.
So, and we all know that you got to count games in hand as points in the bag, because that's how fans are. So they're 8 points out of wild card 2. Oh, hey, Ray, the door opened. Our guest is here. I think maybe slowed down by the snow a little bit, because it's not snowing. I don't think it's snowing in Raleigh, but it's snowy here and there. So we're going to go with the snow delay.
Yeah,
So
through brought in with the snow and the cold that we're experiencing. The door opens, and we always love it when someone joins us here in the storm cellar. And a great guest. We're going to get him to pull up a chair here. Welcome to Tom Workrate. Love the idea. When I heard that you were coming in, I knew this was going to be a great episode. And despite the snowstorm that might have slowed you from coming in, you're here. We're very excited to have you. How are you doing, Tom?
Doing great. Just know that I appreciate the snow. Winter is meant for snow. Raleigh, we
right,
tend to
yeah.
have a Raleigh winter is about 45 degrees and rain. So if
or
you're
ice.
gonna make it cold, you might as well just put snow on the ground.
Yeah, Raleigh winters tend to be either nothing or ice, and it's not a lot of snow, Ray. It's wintry mix / ice, or it's nothing, right? It's
there you go. There you
and
go.
You've seen that picture that's out there about the last time we had a bad ice storm, and there were wampas there and flaming cars and the whole thing.
Oh my!
The 10-second version. The day my wife moved to Raleigh, before we had met, she had moved to Raleigh, was the big January 2020 something inch snowstorm. And we had met through mutual friends online. And she's like, and that was like a Thursday or something. And she goes, so do you think, I'll have to go to work tomorrow? I'm supposed to start my new job. And we were like, tomorrow, like 2 weeks, maybe.
Yeah. There you go.
It's 2 feet of snow. We ain't cleaning this up in the next week or so. No way.
Yeah, that's some places are just better equipped to deal with snow than others. In Calgary, like and I'll say this, as far as the people clearing snow and stuff, they don't do it very well here in Calgary. They just wait for the next Chinook to come through and take care of the snow and melt it away. But I digress. Tom, you just as you were coming in, we were talking about the Patches injury, and we were kind of discussing the last couple of games here, and just want to bring you up to speed where we're at. I'll just say it, like, let's hear your take here on this. We'll get you to do the normal introduction to how you became a Caniac. We're going to hold that off. We're going to hold that off until the end and let you tell us all about you, because that's what we do here in the storm cellar. But right now we're talking about this injury and recapping it. Patches, oh, he's out. What was your take? What did you think when you saw the incident?
I mean, it's almost Shakespearean tragedy, right? Here's a person that was brought in to electrify the team, really. One of the best pure shooters in the game at this point. And he's brought in, is excited to be in Raleigh. That hasn't always been the case. For those of us that have dealt with the last 10, 15 years, players getting traded to Raleigh don't necessarily always appreciate that fact, but he was excited about the opportunity. He was happy about it. He comes in at first and was skating with the team, tears his Achilles, and it's a gut punch for everyone, but he's going to work hard. He's going to come back. He comes back early. I mean, we were talking February at the earliest for the Achilles tear. So he comes back early. He kind of brings a spark to the team, and he had the lower body injury that was not related to the Achilles. So everybody kind of like wiped the little sweat off their brow. It's like, oh, okay, it's not the Achilles. And it was weird to see like the PR team push out the fact that this is an injury. It's not the Achilles. They normally don't say that. They just go, oh, it's a lower body injury. But they know everyone's question that's going to happen after that. That's, oh, it's not the Achilles. Don't worry, it's not the Achilles. And then 2 games later, it's the Achilles. So it's just, it's hard. I mean, I can, as a Canes fan, I can deal with it because, how many games was that with Patches? 5, 6, something like that?
Yep, 5.
So
yeah,
you're taking away something that wasn't really there in the first place for the most part. So, okay, I can roll with that. I'm gut punched for Patches himself. I mean, again, he was the person that was excited for a new start. He seems to love Raleigh, and just to have him go down and again face what 5-6 months worth of rehab to be able to get back into playing shape again. I mean, his season's obviously done. The rest of he's 33, 34. The rest of his career really is in doubt at this point because you're dealing with 2 Achilles tears within a 12-month period. You have to wonder if it is the end, and I don't want to think that. I don't want to kind of embrace those thoughts. I want to think that he's going to come back, he's going to play, and the fact that he seemingly likes the area of Raleigh so much that we may be able to bring him back on a 1-year deal with probably a relatively small salary number. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a negotiator by any means, but there's going to be a lot of risk there. So there's probably not going to be a lot of money invested in it. So hopefully we can give it one more shot.
And, so to listen to you speak and see people on social media, and I know for myself, has any player ever come in and gotten people so hyped and so behind them as a person and a player in so few games? And he played 5 games for the Canes, and it feels like the entire fan base is behind the guy and wants to give him maybe a 1-year deal for next year and wants to see him get back in the NHL and can you think of another player who's developed that kind of, I don't want to say loyalty, but that kind of a following, that kind of an energy, who has played 5 games? I mean,
yeah, I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, Tom.
No, I was going to say, I think of some of our short-term visitors that we had. James Winooski is somebody who comes up immediately that, 47 seconds. And he went down, and that was an Achilles injury too, I believe. And he goes down and fans were like, well, oh, well, it just kind of rolled off with it. There was no real embrace with it. I mean, outside of that, you had players like, say, Jack Hillen, if you want to go way back to 2013, 2014, something like that, that came in for like 2 games, got a concussion, and his career ended. But these are not players that were as high profile, I don't think, as Pacioretty. Pacioretty he's an all-star caliber player. If he's healthy and playing 82 games, he is a 30-goal scorer. He is a top line player. And again, the positivity he brought as he came into Raleigh and showed that, I think the fan base just embraced him because he liked it here. He wanted to be here, and the fan base wanted him here as well.
Yeah, I'm sure there are stories in the history of the NHL that are similar to this. I don't think it's ever happened for this franchise. And I think, Tom, you didn't want to talk about him not being able to ever play again and so forth. It's the one thing that jumps into my mind that for his own health, he would need to do and take like a full year off. Like, this is not something like he's known for his very quick recoveries. That's something that's been with him all his time. He recovers quickly, and I would want him to come back. I would love to have him come back and be a part of the team, signed under what has to be guaranteed as a smaller contract that even he and his agent couldn't possibly talk their way around. You know what I mean? Like, the number of injuries and so forth. Yes, his talent is upper echelon. Yes, he can score tons of goals and so forth, but you got to be able to play the games. And he's at a crossroads now. It's been well documented that in his whole effort to come back since August, he spent a lot of time questioning whether or not he was going to pull the pin on his career, whether it was I don't want to say not, it was worth it. It clearly was. He's a competitor and he wants to play, but he's also looking down the road too at his health. And he was really questioning it. And he fought through and he came back and it was great. And I mean, it's kind of a statement to the type of fans that the Caniacs and Jerks are, that they embrace their players and they knew how good this team was and how much better he made them. Like he was exactly what they were looking for, and they embrace him and bring him in right away. And he's the type of guy that you want on your team. I point at him being, still not in the lineup, but the ice cream event, right?
That's Take the kid ice cream. Yeah.
Think of the kid, right? He comes down and gets him that ice cream, an instant folk hero, right? Like that's what he became, an instant folk hero, because they just love him. That's the type of player that we like. That's what we want. And so, maybe there's something in it for him. He's really going to have to accept that this is going to be a very long, very slow recovery.
He does feel like one of the good guys, right? And
he does.
Most people probably know these things. When he played for Montreal, he went out with a knee. He's the guy who broke his neck, which is why the boards near the benches are now curved, because he broke his neck being slammed. No, was it Chara that slammed him into that?
Was Chara's hit.
This is Achilles, tear number 2. Now, Justin Williams had one, was able to come back and have a career, so it can be done. I know Patches is said to be a fast healer, but I'm not a doctor. I haven't seen the scans, but he came back even quicker than what they thought by almost a month. And that was, months quicker than anybody else would have come back. So I hope this isn't the end for Patches. But I think I'm same sentiment as you guys. First off, it's like Andre Kasha. If he never plays again because of concussion, just as long as he can get by in life and not have the headaches and the things like, Knobbers and Shane Whistle, these other guys have had issues with, career-ending things. That's one. If he can come back, he feels like he can do it. I would love to see him get another, like a 1-year deal. It's maybe bonus, laden, however they work under the cap, right? Because some of the money's coming off. Jordan Stahl's not going to make $6 million next year if he comes back. I don't think at all. You have some room. Without going too deep, because we could spend a whole episode, a couple hours on this. Canes are second in the league without Patches. Forget the 5 games, the 3 goals, although that was exciting to see and really energized the fan base. They're second overall in the league. If the power play can get right, they don't need to add people to make a run. I don't feel like it's a must-have. Like, you don't have to change anything if they continue to do what they do, and the power play, and that's my caveat here, and the power play starts working. However, Bo Horvat is one person who's been linked to the Canes. Could he replace Patches, come in? Is he a 30-plus goal guy? Yep. It's going to cost you. That's the question. Initially, the rumor at least is that they were asking about Natchez. That's a hard no. Jarvis, for me, probably also hard no. I'm not sure Horvat is going to be this good long term. If we got Horvat, I would want him as a rental. Other names to throw out there: Kuzmenko, another Vancouver guy. Second, it's a guy who they could potentially rebuild around, but there's been talks, at least through the Athletic, that maybe they want to move him for somebody younger who could potentially develop into a top line guy. Tarasenko, I think, is still injured, but he would still be somebody who could help, but he's not putting up the points quite, the goals at least, at the same clip as he was. Timo Meier, right, in San Jose, they're going to be sellers. The contract is the big one there. Or the one that kind of I haven't seen anybody else mention him but me, but what about Sam Reinhart from Florida? Now, if they decide to be sellers, he's somebody who, as I recall, I can look up the numbers while you guys are talking a little bit, but I feel like he's a 20-plus goal guy making not a lot of money and could be a good rental to help drive some offense. So Like I said, I don't want to deep dive anything, but do you guys have any, 10,000 foot impressions of what you might want to see? Or do you say, don't mess with the chemistry? I mean, that's always the option, right?
Tom, I'm going to let you jump in first on this one. You're our guest. So what do you think? Where and who amongst those names, or maybe you've got a couple of other names? What do you think?
So what becomes difficult for the Canes and figuring out some kind of addition, and we've seen already in the last couple of years that the Canes are not a rental team for the most part. They're a rental team, but they're a discount rental team. So they're not going to pick up a Bo Horvat and give up a tremendous amount of assets to watch him walk in a year, or less than a year this summer. They're not going to give up a lot of assets for any type of, I'll say, short-term free agent walk type person. Reinhart, who you mentioned, he's got this year and next 6.5 million, I believe. Ooh. Yeah, 6.5 million. And Reinhart's a very good player. I like Reinhart. But again, it's a question of what Florida would want for him, and I think they'd want a good package. And the thing, as you were saying before, with when they were talking about Horvat, is they're looking for players to play immediately. They're looking at Martin Necas, who Necas is still under some control. He's under contract for this year and next, and still a restricted free agent after this current bridge contract ends. So there's still that control that you're not going to have with Horvat. Horvat's going to be an unrestricted free agent. He's going to get the block. So you don't trade somebody that you have control over. You especially don't trade someone like Seth Jarvis, who is still an NHL player. Maybe he isn't showing the flashes that he was last year, but it's still there. And experts will say up and down that this is a top 6, potential winger. So, and he's under an entry-level contract. You definitely don't dump somebody who's under that much control for that long for somebody
Absolutely.
Who's going to walk away. So you have to look at, I'll say, the discount rental at this point, because as you said before, this is a team that's second in the league with 5 games of Pacioretty. We're trying to replace Pacioretty. And when Pacioretty was in the lineup, you had Teuvo Teravainen as a fourth-line player. So there isn't a huge urgency to have this big replacement. You mentioned Tarasenko. And when Pacioretty goes on long-term IR, when a move is done, he doesn't have to go on long-term IR now, but if the team does make a move for a big money player like a Tarasenko, he will have to go on long-term IR to get the cap fit. Tarasenko, I think, is something that someone that the team could consider depending on the cost. You look at somebody like when the team brought in Max Domi last year. That was a player that they basically got off the dollar rack. It was, we'll trade you a prospect that we got in the 3rd round last year that we're not overly crazy about. That's pretty much what the deal was to get Max Domi. There was no real spending that took place there. It was, hey, I know deep down you're trying to get rid of him anyway because you don't want to lose him for nothing, which is what Columbus was. Columbus knew that he was going to walk. They weren't going to re-sign him. So here's, a player that is a middle 6 player on a halfway decent team, but he was a 4th-line player. He was going to be a 4th-line player for us, but it's that type of pickup that you can make off the discount rack. So is someone like Tarasenko, who's got that big cap hit, and in, I believe, the last year of his contract, is he going to be more? What's the discount that they may be able to get for him with a 3rd-round pick? Yeah, I have no idea.
And he said he's not, as far as I know, he said, Tom, he's not going to resign in St. Louis. Like he's out the door.
He's had bad experiences in St. Louis. He was ready to go last year, 2 years ago. So yeah, and St. Louis knows, again, kind of like Columbus with Domi before. They know that he is out the door. Let's get something for him. I mean, the Canes were in that position for so many years previously, going, hey, these are guys that are going to walk anyway. Let's get at least something for them. I think there's going to be some demand for Tarasenko, though, so I don't think it's going to be we'll throw you a middling prospect and, a fourth rounder or something like that. I think there's going to be an actual demand for him, especially if they kind of sit on the deadline and see how many teams jump. I don't know how many teams can take a player that's making $7 million right now. Again, the Canes now with Pacioretty being hurt find themselves in an oddly good situation in that they can move him to long-term IR and get players. And I'm going to throw more names out there that are not necessarily players that I want, but Jonathan Toews becomes a possibility. Patrick Kane theoretically becomes a possibility at this point, because you can move some stuff around and take a player on the expiring contract that before had been previously too high. But now that you have this room with Pacioretty being out, you have that room that a lot of contending teams don't have. So you may be able to get some of these higher profile players for less than you would have, say, at the beginning of this season.
I'm gonna jump in here. Geographically, I have maybe a tiny advantage, although, of course, with the internet, everything is easier. But for everyone, about finding out about other teams all over, I just see a glut of information about Vancouver. They are in utter chaos. Okay, that whole team, that whole franchise is just a great big ball of what the heck is going on. Like the Bruce Boudreau being told that he's really a lame duck coach and is going to be released any day now, possibly today, maybe tomorrow. There's a press conference tomorrow.
That's awful, Jim Rutherford.
Like what Jim Rutherford has done to him it's unbelievable. But there's so much chaos going on in that the relationship that Horvat has with the team. He's gone from Vancouver. Guaranteed. He's not signing anything. He was slighted because of JT Miller's contract. They're having issues with JT Miller. The whole reason why they're talking about replacing Boudreau with Tocchet is because they believe Tocchet is the guy that can rein in JT Miller, right? I mean, for the Canucks, Jim Rutherford, for him to be saying, look, we want Natchez or we want Jarvis for a rental, it is delusional. To ask them for Horvat, because Horvat is on the end of, he is a rental player. The ask for him cannot nearly be as high as what they're asking for. They're shooting for the moon, but they're in a full, they're talking, he said, we thought we only had to do minor surgery. We have to do major surgery. They're talking about tearing the whole thing down.
I don't think I'd trust Vancouver to do any surgery for me.
Well, no, I don't. The way they've been running things this year has just been nuts, right? So
I was thinking of the Tanner Pearson situation where he's having, So I wouldn't trust Vancouver with any surgery personally.
No, no kidding. No kidding. So look, to me, Horvat is attainable, and he's number one on my list, mostly because of the type of player that he is, mostly because he's got amazing leadership. He is like a hurricane in disguise. Everything about the way the Hurricanes play is the way he is. And it fills a spot that arguably, even when we had Pacioretty, there were people talking about doing this deal because we needed someone as a 2C, and he would fill that bill perfectly. So Horvat to me would be the guy that I'd be looking at. And the question then becomes, how badly do you want the cup, right? What are you willing to give up for this opportunity? Because we're loaded for bear and ready to go, but you want to do that one more thing. And there's lots of talk about Horvat being scooped up by the Bruins. Do the Bruins need to be any better? Like, no, but they're after him.
They got to move money to get Horvat.
Even so,
They have $33,000 in cap space.
I think they would, but I think they would do it.
Oh, I think they would. I'm just saying,
yeah,
money has to go out, which means they're not giving away a fourth liner for Horvat. They're going to have to give away somebody in the top six. I think,
yeah. So I think we're in a unique situation. We do have lots of talent that we could deal, and we have lots of cap space now. So Horvat would be my first choice. I like Meyer. Meyer to me, he can play, and he's got a nose
on
for
a
the
bad
net,
team,
right? And that on a
good team. I can't love to see him on a good team.
Yeah, 100%. Kuzmenko is another one that's decent. I've always had a like for Tarasenko. His injury issue worries me. Like, look, the Hurricanes worry about injuries all the time. Do we want to add another name to the list of the people that we think could get injured at any second? Like all of our goaltenders. I mean, Reinhart, yeah, he might be a fit, but the Panthers are actually working their way back into the playoff view right now. And yes, they've got a long way to go, but they've caught on to a heater. And who knows where they might be by the time the trade deadline rolls around. They might be in the thick of it and say, no, we said we were building a playoff team. We're going for it. You know what I mean? So they might be buyers as much as they might be sellers. Like you said, Brad, they might be buyers too.
The next couple of weeks, I think we'll know. Because like I said, right now, theoretically, they're 8 points out, and the trade deadline's 5 weeks away, I think.
Yeah. So they got
2-3 weeks. We'll have a better idea of what's going on.
We will. I know that everyone looks at Horvat, and I've heard, on lots of podcasts and on social media that it's just Horvat would be great, but it's out of reach and they're asking for too much. I still think that's what negotiations are for. And with the chaos that's going on in Vancouver, I think that's someone could be plucked out of there and convinced to let them go. Wow. Such a great situation here.
It is. To switch it up, to go back to the bad news. So, Tom, we're kind of going bad news to better news.
Yeah.
Shame on Andrei Svechnikov, whom we all know I just adore as a player.
Yep.
The hit, I forgot who he hit, but the hit from Thursday night was not dissimilar. First thing I said to Ray, because Ray didn't get to see the game, he said, "Oh, what about this hit?" I said, it was like Brooks Orpik on Eric Cole, very similar. Between the numbers, just far enough from the way from the boards. The player hit head first into the boards. Luckily, he wasn't injured. But Svech, you should know better. The fact that he did not receive supplementary discipline, I think is shocking. He did get a 10. He did get a major, and they do sometimes factor that in the fact that he's not known as a dirty player. He does play hard, but that's the first hit that I would definitely say, oh yeah, that's definitely over the line. You can't do that, kid. And to compound the issue, and somebody will correct me if I'm wrong. Thank you, listeners. I don't think Svech has scored a goal yet in 2023. I'm trying to look that up now, but if he has, he might have one. But he's cooled off in the goals department significantly, which it's streaky, right? So I'm not worried about it. But just if I'm going to admonish him for the hit, which we all should, that was a bad one. Just gonna add a little kerosene on it and say, hey, by the way, also, you know,
Yeah. And Tom, we'll get you to jump in for a second, but I want to just, you know, when you told me about it, Brad, I was like, oh, come on, it couldn't have been that bad. And was the other dude like carted off on the ice? And like, no, he was healthy. And then I went and got a look at the hit. And people make jokes about triggering, right? And stuff like that. That hit totally triggered me. It was like I was watching Eric Cole go into those boards head first all over again. It was awful. And I was furious. I've never and will never forgive Orprick, as he's been renamed by the both of us and most people who don't like him. He is just it was unbelievable to see that happen from Svech. And Svech, you're an all-star now. That is not all-star play. It's not how an all-star player plays. And yes, Tom Wilson has been in the all-star game. I thought that was a joke, but because he's got no business being in. It was dirty. It was awful. And we're finding that, I mean, last night in the game, I was forced to listen to the Islander broadcast. They started at kind of identifying Svechnikov as an agitator, not necessarily a power forward, but as an agitator. And who do you think of when you think of agitators?
I mean,
well, aside from me, yeah.
He's not. I don't think he's a Brad Marchand. Like, he's not a pest. You know, I use pest as that word. I still think he's kind of the quintessential idea of what you want a power forward to be. But
yeah.
The only good thing about the hit the other night was, as soon as he turned around, you could see it on his face. He was like, "Oh yeah, that no." You know, luckily the guy didn't get hurt, right? You know, it's not about intent.
Yeah, Tom, we need you to weigh in here and like where are you at? I mean, I know I'm a little bit extreme on it and with the emotions and stuff, but what was your take?
So I'm watching it on the loop as you guys are talking about it, because I'd seen it. I wasn't watching that game. I had kid hockey practice, as I do 11 days a week. But I was able to. I remember seeing it the day of and highlights, that type of thing, and I just decided to kind of loop it now. And I've kind of noticed, because at first when I looked at it, I'm like, oh, that's a bad hit, and then watching it on loop, and I hate to be one of those hockey guys, but and I think he didn't get the suspension, which again also surprised me. I saw a game coming out of it. Not a huge suspension, but I could have seen him getting a game and been like, yeah, that absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
The full brunt of impact was not there. It wasn't a full blown bang bang type play. It seemed like he was going to go for the hit. The Minnesota player looked like they lost a little bit of balance, so it put them in a very vulnerable position. So yeah, that's one of those things that is unfortunate. I don't want to make light of it, because it's not. It's a danger. It's still a dangerous play. It's still a suspendable play. The 5 in a game was warranted. But at the same time, I don't look at it as a dirty play. And that's, I mean, when you talk about certain players, and again, the Orpik, of course, but when you talk about certain plays that are like that cause serious injury, there's a different approach, and there are different types of players that make those type of plays. And I don't want to defend Svechnikov, because he throws hard hits. But he's not necessarily, and again, not to throw Tom Wilson under the bus necessarily. I know he is a polarizing figure, but he is not a bad hit guy. He's a big hit guy. He will use the boards to his advantage. He kind of comes through like a freight train sometimes, but I don't think that hit was malicious. So
Yeah, I agree 100%.
I know it triggered, and I understand, but
Yeah.
I just, again, I watched that on loop, and I'm trying to look. I looked at it from the Minnesota player's perspective of how he skated in to get the puck. I saw Svech's approach to the player, and I don't think it was necessarily malicious. But again, I think the penalty was appropriate. I think he probably should have been suspended for a game just to discourage that type of thing. I mean, I watch enough kid hockey to know that if you don't take that kind of action, you encourage retaliation, and then everything escalates. So I think what the referees in that game did was they saw the situation, and they for the most part de-escalated it. They saw that Svech made a bad hit. They said, okay, that's a 5-minute penalty. You're out of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I always look at it, sorry, Ray, from if that happened, if it was reversed, right, and Minnesota did that to Svech, that's how I always try and look at it. And I would say I think you're right on. I don't think it was intentional, but he did it, and I think in Svech's case, unlike with his high sticking penalties, he'll learn from this because 2 minutes in the box doesn't cut it for his high sticks. But yeah, I don't think it was malicious. But if that had happened to one of our guys, I would say that's 100%, 5 in a game. And then I would kind of expect the game. I don't think I would warrant 2 from somebody who doesn't have that history, but calling out your own is a hard one, right? And we all want to ride that line, I think, and not look through everything through rose-colored glasses. And that's kind of what I'm saying is like, okay, if our guy did that, how would I feel? If our guy did what Trouba did the other day to I forgot who they were playing against when he stuck his, he elbowed the guy right in the kidney.
Oh,
I would be like, our guy can't do that. Like you should suspend him, and they should have done something to Trouba. Of course they didn't because it's Trouba, and the league is the league. But best sport, worst league.
And Tom, like, I really value your opinion, Tom, because as you've stated, you're a coach, and so you have a better perspective, on this whole thing. I think Brad pointing out or saying, what if it was Svechnikov on the receiving end? I think I would have gone right off the deep end because, again, Eric Cole played a very similar game to Svechnikov, but he wasn't as big. You know what I mean? And so to see that happen in that way was just, it was shocking. And Tom, do you think that being a coach gives you a little bit better perspective on this instead of, Raymond, who is, the emotional fan who sees this and is just so upset by how it happened and stuff because you don't want to see your players going down that road or, even being linked to that kind of play. Do you think, that's good. That's got to help you, right? It certainly gives you better insight perhaps than mine.
I mean, I try to look at things in before even a coaching standpoint, because I tend to get a little bit more emotional in regards to when it's kids potentially getting hurt. But when I try to look at these type of things, suspendable actions, hits, dirty hits, things like that. And I attempt to try to keep a level head and not necessarily being on social media at the time of a game. I watch a lot of games through streaming, that type of thing. So I've learned to kind of push Twitter away for the most part if I am watching an active game, because I get goals spoiled for me pretty much because you're, a few seconds delayed to like 30 seconds delayed, that type of thing. So I think staying away from social media helps as well. And if I see a play, I sit there and I try to think about it. And it could be such a minor thing to like a tripping penalty or goalie interference or something like that. And I try to look at it from both perspectives. I try to put the fan hat down and put the official hat on or whatever, and just try to look at it and go, okay, what are both if I'm a fan of either team, what am I looking at? Is this and again, like Brad had said, if I'm looking at it from the flip perspective, like if it's my player who potentially got hit by a dirty hit, I'm looking at him going, well, if it was our player delivering that, how would I feel about that? They're like, because you're going 10-game suspension. But if you look at it from the other perspective, you wouldn't be saying 10-game suspension if your player did that, that type of thing. So you kind of try to weigh it both ways. And I try to keep a balance going. And again, being off of social media during the actual game helps a lot, because you get a lot of people that, again, there gets to be a lot of outrage in regards to hits and things like that. And just kind of, there's a lot of things to weigh into it. And I don't envy the division of player safety and having to weigh all these aspects of it, because you're looking not only at the actual play. Did someone get hurt? What's the severity of the injury? What is the player's history? My son started refereeing recently, so there's a lot of things that they weigh into that. It's where a particular player, if they get if there's a particular hit and the player gets injured, you are, by anything, just more prone to call a penalty on that, because you feel there needs to be a penalty, because that particular player, despite the fact that it may have been a clean play, you still feel that you have to call a penalty on it for, say, a charging if it's a big hit, or a boarding if it's against the boards, that type of thing. So it's
right.
it's
feel like a responsibility.
And, you gotta weigh that, and it can be difficult. And again, watching my son go through and referee even 10U games, and just seeing it from the other side, it makes you feel, I hate to say it, but you feel sympathetic for referees. You feel sympathetic for these people of division of player safety that have to kind of see a play and make an immediate value of going, well, 5 points here because he's a repeat offender, but -2 points because he didn't seem to have intent. And you're weighing this imaginary formula to try to make the determination and go, 2 games, that's completely arbitrary. So it's difficult, especially in regards to plays like these, where it looks like the intent necessarily wasn't there, but the action was there. So what do you do?
Right. And I kind of do the opposite with social media. So I always tell people, like, ignore what I say during the game. If you want to know my real thoughts, wait till the next day when I'm not invested. And part of the reason I tweet during the game and make calls is, for me, it helps me when I do a reflection of things. It helps put me in a better headspace, right? Because hockey is so fast, and you have guys on ice, and a puck is 3 inches across. And as fans, if we can look at something and see it one way, during the game, and the next day we go, okay, maybe that wasn't as bad as we thought, or maybe this, maybe it wasn't this or that. That's exactly what the referees are doing, as you were saying, Tom. It's so quick and it happens so fast. You don't have a lot of time to make those judgments. And the biggest thing for me would be, I am still somebody who thinks that there should be, accountability at the NHL for their officiating, which there are in other leagues. I'm also a big proponent of putting, a third official up in a booth who just sits there and watches the game on an iPad. And when a call gets made or something happens, he hits the little 30-second rewind button, rewinds and goes, oh yeah, no, that wasn't a penalty, or I don't know that you want to call penalties from up there, but certainly for big things, maybe you negate some penalties from there. You certainly take a look at, goalie interference and some of those things in real time. But it's a tough job. I mean, it is. I think they can do better. I'm going to, hopefully that doesn't sound like I'm talking out both sides of my mouth. It's probably the toughest sport to officiate. I also think that they need to do a better job, generally speaking, and not, I know they say, like, if we're not managing the game, then it's all going to be power plays, right? Because there's just that many penalties. I would be willing to put up with that for a while if the players, if it gets the players in the habit of stop taking penalties.
Yeah,
game management is just a killer.
Yeah, I've got 2 things, and one will be unpopular, but the other, like when I saw that hit, and I kind of did what you did, Tom, where once I got a chance to get a look at it, I cycled it 5 or 6 times, and I'm not, I'll own this. I thought Svech deserved 3 games and not 1, just because, and that was more of a send a message that this is not acceptable type, punishment. And, maybe Svech appeals it and it gets dropped down to 1, but send the message. Those types of hits, even though the guy wasn't injured, are dangerous and you don't want them done. So it'll be unpopular for me to crack on Svech. I understand. I still love him, but that kind of thing needs to stop and can't happen. And I don't want that in my memory. When I see him score, I want to be as jubilant as I always would have been without having that, yeah, but he did that in the back of my mind. So there's that. But Tom, the second thing I'm going to say is, Tom, full credit to your son willing to jump in and take on the role of officiating in hockey games, even if it's very, very young. Full credit for that. It's got to be the most difficult job there is, that gets the least amount of love or appreciation, because they're always yelled at. They're always, thought to be blind. I mean, there's how many people say good things about refs in the middle of the game? For your son to put himself out there and officiate to make the game possible for other players, you can't play the games without the refs, right? You can't play it without them. So full credit to your son, because that's amazing for being willing to take that on.
For anybody who doesn't think like the U10, U14 referees don't catch heat, my local rink would tell you otherwise.
100%.
And if it's kids officiating, if you think that stops parents from yelling at them, I got videos.
It's even worse. It's even worse. It's just unbelievable. It's so Tom, full credit.
Yeah. On that note, Ray and Tom, we should talk about Tom.
Yeah.
Because I think what Tom does and the reason he's here will make people go, oh, like Tom seems to know a lot about hockey, and he looks at it from, maybe a slightly different perspective than other folks. And there's a reason for that. So,
yeah.
Ray, would you like to officially introduce Tom?
Yeah, 100%. Let's, now Tom's been joining us here for a while and seamlessly with his input and stuff. It was absolutely beautiful. It's like he was hosting the show with us for as long as we've been doing it. It was absolutely fantastic. But Tom joins us, and Tom, we want to get your full story. Okay, we want to know everything about you, your Caniac history. Did you start liking a different team somewhere else growing up? Are you a Hurricane through and through fan? Like, give us the whole details, favorite players, and tell us a little bit about the great stuff that we know. You're a coach, so give us all the details. We want to hear about you.
All right. So first things first, born and raised on Long Island. So I got to experience, to a lesser extent, the glory days of the Islanders in the 80s. My wife actually grew up walking distance from, well, not really walking distance, but with a couple of miles away from Nassau Coliseum. So she tells stories of being a kid and seeing the parade down Hempstead Turnpike of the old Islanders team. So I think a lot of us on the island were Islanders fans, even if we weren't necessarily that big of a hockey fan, because the Islanders were the Long Island sports team. When you look at, like, say, baseball teams, the Mets are Queens, the Yankees are the Bronx, the football teams are out of Jersey. The Islanders are a Long Island team. So I started off, I think, like a lot of Long Islanders, as an Islanders fan. My first game as a kid was an Islanders-Rangers game at Nassau Coliseum. I saw so many fights in the stands, it wasn't even funny. Actually, it was kind of funny looking back at it. But Yeah, it was tough to be an Islanders fan in the 90s. Mike Milbury, I would throw a shoe at him if I saw him personally. But I ended up getting away from the Islanders for a period of time, but got back into hockey through Sega Genesis and through NHL 94, NHLPA 93, the better game potentially. And in using NHL 93 PA, I got really good at it. So I started playing as the worst team in the game, who were the Quebec Nordiques. So I actually became a Nordiques fan for a period of time because that was the team that I knew because I used them so often.
Wow.
And kind of rolled into a Avalanche fan once the team moved from Quebec to Colorado, and enjoyed that cup run for a little bit, and then kind of went in and out of hockey for a period of time until we moved down here back in 2006, which was a great time to be a Canes fan. But kind of got swept up into that, but never really got into the Canes that much for whatever reason. It took an outing. I kind of followed the team, never really got hardcore into it until we went to our first game. I know the date exactly, February 14th, 2013. It was a Canes Toronto matchup. Colton Orr fought Kevin Westgarth in that game. My very young son at the time took a love to Kevin Westgarth at that time because he beat up Colton Orr, and that was pretty cool to him. And to this day, my son, the hockey hairball, wears number 8 because of Kevin Westgarth. So
to interject real quick, that's the second Kevin Westgarth reference on this show in like 3 weeks.
It's amazing.
It's also the second Kevin Westgarth mention anywhere in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, 100%. That's outstanding.
Westy is a great guy. I've met him once or twice, and I mean, not necessarily the best hockey player from an NHL standpoint, but he is an incredibly smart person, an incredibly gracious person. Always made time for my kids to take pictures. There's a picture I have of my 3 kids and Westgarth at I think it was some Canes event type thing, and kind of always cherish that picture. But yeah, love me some Kevin Westgarth. But yeah, that game kind of entrenched us. The kids loved it so much. My wife loved it and bought partial season tickets the following day, and had full season tickets after the finish of that season. Because if you can still stomach the Canes after watching what happened during that 2012-2013 season and that total collapse, you can take anything, I think. But yeah, that was the start of my Canes fandom. Got to be friends with the Section 328 guys early on, and then saw that kind of swell up, and tailgates that got uncontrollably large. Like it was wild, especially that first playoff series in 2018-2019, getting Jeremy Roenick to come to one of our tailgates to do a live report. Like that was wild. But yeah, have loved the Canes ever since. Enjoy the team. Don't always enjoy some of the things that they do, and I'm one of their bigger critics. But you become hypercritical of someone you love. It's you want them to be the best that they can be. So that I'll say is still my excuse to that.
That's why I don't have an influencer shirt, is because if they do something I don't like, I'm gonna say it.
Yeah, we're realists here. We're realists here.
Like you said, it comes from a point of love, but
like if I didn't
wrong
like
is
you,
wrong.
I wouldn't care.
Yeah,
I do care.
Apathy is what's bad. When people are upset with the team, that's good. It means they care, right? Apathy is what we don't want.
Yeah. So outside of that, you mentioned coaching. My son was part of the first Canes first goal program, which I will, if there's anything about the Canes that I will plug, it's the Canes first goal program. Basically, the Canes first goal program for a set fee, and it's changed over the years. It was $97 the first year, but it's still a reasonable thing. I think it's up to 200 or something now. But what you get is your kid, and it was, I think, ages 4 to 8. And the ages fluctuated over time too. They kind of try to find their happy spot. But for a set fee, you get full hockey equipment for your kid: helmet, stick, pads, everything, skates even. And I think like six or eight, I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm not prepared, but lessons with Jeff Daniels was out one time. Bates Battaglia was out there one time. So you get experienced trainers out there for your kid, and it's meant for kids pretty much that kind of know how to skate but never really played hockey before. Maybe they've kind of been introduced to it a little bit, but they're still kind of learning. But it's that foot in the door, and again, for the low cost. And the price has gone up recently, but they've also added more things. Like, I think if you do it, you not only get all the gear, but you get tickets to a game. So that kind of a little price goes in there as well. But it's such a great program. And again, my son had skated twice in his life before he joined the First Goal program. He did First Goal, really picked up on hockey. We put him in more skating classes after the fact, because he wasn't ready for house league yet. And then when he was 9 in the fall, we put him in house league. He did that for a couple of years. And then when he was 12, he ended up getting an opportunity to play for the Junior Hurricanes travel team. So he has now been a Junior Hurricane for the last 3 years. He also volunteers now with the First Goal program. You get something from it, you give back to it. So, and this most recent season, I've been tasked with being assistant coach for the team, which is fun because I can't skate. I've tried, and I theoretically can skate, but I can get from point A to point B. I cannot do the things that my son does.
We got to raise money for him, Ray, to get him in the First Goal program.
Yeah.
We'll get you, Pat. We'll get you all set up. That sounds like an amazing program, though, for real. Will they offer that for adults? Because I would do it. I haven't skated in 20 years.
Yeah, First Goal is great, and it's a little bit above our, or I should say, the age limit is a little bit past us. So unfortunately, I don't think we can jump in there. If they ever get an adult one, maybe we can jump into that. And there's been talk of having an adult kind of program similar to that. But yeah, the First Goal program, and it's pretty much most ice rinks in the North Carolina area. So you've got the ice rinks that are around here in Cary, Raleigh, Wake Forest. I know they have it at the rink in Fort Bragg. They've got it in Charlotte. I believe Greensboro. But I mean, spread out through the state. So if you're in North Carolina, there's a decent chance that Canes First Goal program will be somewhere near you. I mean, depending on where you are in the state. North Carolina is a big state, but yeah, that's pretty much, I think, my hockey story for the most part. I have an obsession with the collective bargaining agreement for some reason. So I'm that annoying guy on Twitter who kind of jumps into the conversation, goes, well, actually, you can't get that player because that subsection paragraph 4.2b. But
I got to add you to my Rolodex.
Understand? Yeah, Tom's just been added on the go-to person to contact because
put his name on the whiteboard.
Yeah, 100%. You've now become you're going to become a regular guest for us, because there's lots of times where we have these kind of discussions and we're talking not out of our mouths, if you know where I'm going with that. And we need someone who knows and is into it. So Tom, congratulations. You're part of the staff, if you will, that is Storm Cellar, because you've just been Holy cow, that's awesome.
We'll
Now,
even make your pay the same as ours.
Oh,
yeah,
Day
if
one.
you're okay,
Day one.
there we
Right?
go.
Same
equal
what you
pay
pay
for
for.
everyone.
equal pay for anybody who works for us.
100%, absolutely.
So somebody buy a shirt and the three of us can split $1
Exactly. Hey, now, Tom, I'm not gonna let you totally off the hook. Yeah, I know you said that was your full story. And first of all, full credit to you for being a Nordique fan. Look, the WHA connection always meant something to me. The Whalers playing the Quebec Nordique was always fun for me because I was growing up with a school teacher that was a huge Nordique fan, and so he and I used to get into it all the time. It was always great fun. So congratulations on that. But now that you're a Caniac, now that you're a jerk like Brad and I, who's your guy? Who's your guy like in all of the years? Is it Westgarth? Is Westgarth your guy because of that personal connection, or do you have a favorite outside of that?
It's weird because in my sports fandom, and it's not just hockey. I was a baseball fan for so long, football as well. That type of thing. I try to embrace the lesser known player. So because I never growing up, I was a Yankee fan, and they're like, "Oh, who's your favorite? Is it Don Mattingly? Is it Dave Winfield?" Those are the big names. So it's I don't want to be too hipster, so to speak, but I don't like the mainstream players.
We're lunch
On the
bucket guys here.
yeah, on the current roster right now, I think my favorite, my soft spot is for Calvin DeHaan. I I love his style as a player. I love his mentality. The story that Sarah Sivian did on him a few years ago when he was originally with the team about him growing up and being always wanting to play defense, despite the fact that everybody wants to score and he's the one that's dropping back and hanging out with his goalie and that type of thing. That kind of hit home with me because that reminded me of my son, that type of thing.
He's got an Islander connection too, by the way. Like he
yes, he
played
does.
time with the Islanders, so that certainly makes sense that that you would have a soft spot for him, I guess, in multiple angles. So yeah.
Yeah, there's that connection because we both fled the island for better places to live. So, but yeah, him. I have a soft spot for Martin Firk, and the what 2 games that Martin played for the Hurricanes.
Man, that's the
Ray and I both just looked up in the air like a dog who doesn't understand the command. He's like, "What? Huh?
Yeah,
yeah." If he played
Holy
2 games,
cow.
that's why. Oof.
So if you that was a period of time. That was, I believe, the first Bill Peters year. So we were grasping at anything at that point.
Erase that
and
one.
So I'm a fan of the movie Clerks,
Great movie.
which not the most family friendly movie, but still a good movie.
Yeah.
So when we signed when we got Martin Firk off of waivers, I got super excited because I made this meme that was 2 of the guys that were hanging out outside of the convenience store in Clerks, and there's this Russian guy who sings, and he has the song Berserker, and there's a line which I will not repeat on this podcast, this family friendly podcast.
Thank you.
But the meme was, would you like some Martin Firk Berserker? And I was set. I made this meme. I'm like, that's gonna be every goal. I'm gonna post this meme. It's gonna be great. He played 2 games and he got put on waivers and he ended up going away. And I'm like, this is unfortunate.
Oh man.
So I've tried to get a Martin Firk. That year I went to the Keen's equipment sale trying to get a Martin Firk jersey because that was going to be my white whale, and couldn't find one. Ended up getting a Ty Ratty jersey. If you want to keep digging through the crates there, I have a authentic Ty Ratty military appreciation jersey. And Ty
Wow.
played all of maybe 5 games for the team. But yeah, so, but he wears number 8, and so does my son now. So,
Oh, that's
one of my
outstanding.
cool collectibles.
That is outstanding. Love it.
Can I interject, Ray?
Yeah,
So
100% you can.
was it last year that the Buffalo, that the Sabres tied the lead record for losses? Was it the year before? That was last year, right?
It feels like last year.
Either way, when they tied I also made a Clerks related meme, and I can't tell you the first part, but the last part was in a row.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
This has become a different podcast.
It certainly has.
I'm so sorry for corrupting you all.
No. I think that's
no.
all good. I let my 9-year-old listen to that because I talked to him about how the meme was about how they lost not quite 37 games in a row.
Wow, unbelievable. Now look, okay, so
people are going to be surprised when they meet me in person, Ray, and they're like, "I thought he was super PG all the time."
Yeah,
I'm like,
away from the mic, eh?
Yeah, away from the mic. I'm not that different, but
A little different. Geez, I don't know now. Okay, so now you know that I have a history in broadcasting, and I now have to try to find a way to segue from those memes and Jay and Silent Bob to a very difficult topic that we were going to wrap up the show with.
So I'll give you time to think. So as we've done before, for the adults listening, we're going to talk about the issue that happened in Philadelphia last week. So if you're listening to the podcast with the kids, probably a good day to call this, put an end to this episode a little short, or at least give it a listen before, the family joins in. If you're listening to work, obviously we're, language and things, we're not going to be using, but, we are going to talk about the Philadelphia Pride Night incident. So just give everybody 4 or 5 seconds. If you need to want to tune out, now's the time.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely want to give people the opportunity. So I don't even really know where to start with this. Of course, the news came out about Ivan Provorov in Philadelphia. It was strange. People didn't. It was an ever-evolving story because someone noticed that on Pride Night he wasn't on the ice. Someone noticed it and said, "Hey, where is he in or is he out? What's going on?" And suddenly, at the start of the game, when he wasn't out there for the warm-up, all of a sudden he's ready to play on the ice and he's ready to go. And everyone's wondering what the heck is going on. And someone makes the connection and finds out that he did not wish to wear a Pride jersey in the warm-up and therefore stepped out of it. And his reason that he gave was religious reasons. He is a Russian Orthodox, a member of the Russian Orthodox Church, and that was the issue that he gave. Torts jumped in and stated this was his choice to do, and to which he had a right to do it, and we stand by him. And there's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah, for me,
yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Ray. I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead.
For me, I see people come down in one of 3 camps. There's the camp who just, can't stand people who are different than them and feel it's okay to be bigoted. And so that's one camp. I'm not even talking to them because I doubt they're listening to the show. The second camp are the people who are fully behind like Torts and saying, hey, he has a right to not do those things. And he does. And I would support his right to do that, but that doesn't mean it's free from repercussions. So those people say, oh, just because he doesn't want to wear a pride jersey doesn't mean he hates, people who are part of the LGBTQ plus community. And then you have people in the camp that I am in, and I'm speaking only for myself. I'm not speaking for Ray or Tom or anybody else. Wearing a pride jersey, using pride tape, in my mind, doesn't say, I think this is the greatest thing ever. I think that, you know what I mean? It doesn't mean that you are an active supporter necessarily of anything. What it means is that you are a supporter to the point of people within the LGBTQ plus community are human beings, and they deserve respect, and they deserve to come to hockey games and feel safe without people, being bigoted towards them. And regardless of which side of that you fall on, the reality is that if you're one of the folks who's like, oh, I'm good for him for not wearing it, he shouldn't be forced to, yada, yada, just look at the comments. Just go through social media and look at the comments and see what kind of, crap comes out by people who feel emboldened by that it's not about, tolerance or being inclusive. It's not that simple. It's actively being, against people within a very marginalized community who has high incidence of suicide rates and who has high incidence of depression rates. It's, Philadelphia's Pride Night should have been about welcoming people and growing the game with people who might be different than you, but are there because they love hockey. But it's not. What are we talking about for Philadelphia's Pride Night? We're talking about one guy who falls back on religion, which is a topic I'm not even going to broach, because I know that a lot of people will disagree with me there. But if that's your stance, you're just falling back on, well, my religion says it's wrong, so it's wrong. Then think for yourself. I mean, so I don't know what other way to put it. And Torts, in my mind, cop out. What a complete waste of I already don't like Torts, and now I like him even less. Tortorella is the same guy who said, and I'm paraphrasing, if you kneel for the anthem to support Black people and Black Lives Matter and people who are, who are obviously have been oppressed. Torts said, if you do that, you don't play for me. But when it comes to the LGBTQ plus community, he says, oh, well, I support his right as a player to think what he wants. Oh, you sack of crap. I'm sorry. That's about as bad as it'll ever get on this program. But
Torts, here's a Torts, here's a Webster's dictionary. If you go into the H area near the end, you'll find the word hypocrite, and beside it, you'll see your picture.
Yeah. What a no stones call that was, Torts. Because Torts is the guy who gets mad when people do the Michigan.
Yeah.
Torts is the guy who literally was like, oh, like, if he played for me, he wouldn't do that. Like, so what do you mean? Like all of a sudden it's still the players? No, it's not. If Ivan doesn't want to wear the jersey and be a participant on Pride Night, fine, bench him.
Yeah, he can sit in the press box.
He can sit there. He won. I know we're going to get comments. I know we're going to get comments that say he has a First Amendment right. He does. And the government is not doing anything about his speech. But that doesn't mean that his speech is free from consequences. And I feel strongly about this because, Ray, like I said, I don't want to speak for either of you. As somebody who was born as a white man, white straight guy in middle-class America, which, I get that people are like, oh, you're privileged. And maybe sometimes it's just the wording people have. They're like, oh, I'm not privileged. I've had to work for it. Yeah, you did. But you also had a leg up because of those kind of things. I know that some of the things that I don't, it's not even the things that I've gotten in life. Some of the things that I don't have to, when I get pulled over by the police, I don't have to worry about being shot. That's not something that millions of Americans can say.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous that that people can't just be honest and say, yeah, like there are things I don't have to worry about that other people do because of who they are, whether that's the color of their skin or their sexual orientation or whatever it is. It's just ridiculous to not say, yeah, there are things I don't have to overcome, obstacles I don't have to overcome. And people are like, oh, the privilege, I've had to work. Yeah, okay, so fine, don't use the word privilege. Just be honest and say, there are obstacles I have not had to overcome because of who I am and the way I look.
Yep.
And Pride Night is just supposed to be about saying, hey, regardless of who you are, this is about hockey, right? And I'm going to tick off more people here. If a player set out Military Appreciation Night, the same people who are supporting Ivan Provorov
would be burying him.
It will be very close to a circle on a Venn diagram, very close to a singular circle of people who would be absolutely furious.
You beat me to the punch. That was one of my thoughts.
I support both those groups. I support our troops. I don't support what our government does with our troops a lot of the time, to be perfectly frank. But our actual troops, those folks deserve our respect. Those people deserve our support, as do people in the marginalized communities. It's not hard. It's, don't be we're a bunch of jerks, but don't be a jerk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tom, I could rant forever. I'm going to shut up now.
Yeah. No. Brad, you brought a lot of great things to the table. Tom, I want you to weigh in, and I'll fill in the gaps at the end or whatever with my thoughts. But Tom, it's important to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I've been critical in the past of Canes Pride Night and what's been done more recently, because things have actually things progressed over time. Initially through the NHL and working with You Can Play and groups like that, the NHL had the initiative to have these kind of these nights that weren't necessarily called Pride Nights at the time. It's like Everyone Can Play or something along those lines. I can't remember what they exactly were. And they kind of lumped together everything, like not just gay, but it could be the gay community. It can be the African-American community. It can be like rich or poor, black, white, gay, straight, everybody, everybody's welcome. They're not. I've watched this firsthand. It's not the most welcome environment. It's getting better, but it's not fixed by any stretch of the imagination. The thing that Pride Nights do, and again, I'm saying this as an ally and nothing more. I'm a person who has friends that are part of the gay community, but that's I can't speak for them. I'm not going to try to speak for them. But the one thing that I know that Pride Nights actually do is it just for one day, one game, it lets part of the community know that they are welcome at sporting, these sporting events. They're welcome to, it's a welcoming environment. And when a team wears a Pride jersey, they're basically saying, hey, we're the Philadelphia Flyers or whatever, and we're saying we like having you here. No one putting on a Pride Night jersey is joining the gay community. Just the same as no one wearing a military appreciation jersey is signing up for the Army. You were just out there saying, hey, we appreciate that you're here, and this is a safe space for you. And for Provorov to go off on his own and to elect not to wear the jersey, which again is his choice, whether or not that is breaking the terms of his standard player contract, but we're not going to get into CBA here.
Yeah.
But this is a team. This wasn't like, Provorov didn't walk in that day and go, oh, by the way, it's Pride Night, here's a jersey, wear it. This was planned ahead of time. This was an initiative that James Van Riemsdyk and Scott Lawton were pushing big time to get the team to be able to support and to support all these marginalized groups to get the LGBTQ plus community, the young community too, especially, to give them tickets to come to every game and to get a bunch of people at that particular game and just to contribute to charitable events and that type of thing. And I mean, that's all that jersey was to show, just do a symbolic, 20 minutes or so of warm up and to sell that jersey to raise money for charity. And not only did Provorov refuse to do that and basically say, no, I don't give a damn about your community. I also want to detract attention from it by not wearing the jersey, essentially, because that's what he did. But also, it takes money out of a charitable pocket. That was $900, $1,000 potentially, because those jerseys go for a decent amount. So anything from, say, like $500 to $1,000 that could have been contributed to charity didn't get contributed to charity because he just didn't feel like doing it. And I say it flippantly, like he didn't feel like doing it. It's not he didn't feel like doing it. He vehemently opposed it. So what do you do if you're John Tortorella or you're the Philadelphia Flyers? Let's go above, like, the head coach isn't the end all here. John Tortorella's position his hand can be forced if need be. Like if general management, if Chuck Fletcher turns around and tells John Tortorella, no, this guy needs to be benched, either John Tortorella does it or we have a bigger problem. But for the team to basically, as you said before, to send this complete mixed message of it's okay to sit it out, but we're going to let you play anyway, and just kind of essentially pretend that nothing happened. Because I think that's the ideal that they wanted to do, is just to kind of, maybe no one will notice. Because he's not out there it's not like they sent him out there in a non-Pride jersey to do warm-ups and everybody goes, oh, wow, that's different. Why is that different? Like when you watch players, like say in Canes Pride Night, Canes do not do Pride jerseys for reasons I won't get into, or I can get into right here. They don't do it because of this. They don't want to potentially have a player or two, and I will not mention names on this broadcast, but they do not want to be put to a position where players that do not want to wear this jersey will cause a scene. So you have players that will wear the Pride tape in warm-ups during Pride Night. You'll have players that won't. And I'm the kind of jerk that will sit there and go, okay, these are the players that I like more because they're willing to do it. And these are players that I think a little bit less of because they don't.
Same.
And that's my opinion. That's, I'm not saying that you need, as a fan, you look at this and go, well, this is a player I should villainize because he's not doing something that I agree with. But as you mentioned before, there's ramification, and to have a player actively not participate in something that the rest of the team was doing. Like Dougie Hamilton got villainized by Calgary because he wasn't, I won't use the specific library museum type thing, but Dougie got put off to the side because he was not a player who liked to participate in the group outings with other players. So now you have Ivan Provorov, who is actively this isn't behind the scenes. This is out in the middle of everyone, not participating in something with the rest of the team. So he's brought attention to himself. He's put himself above the team, which, as you know, with hockey players in general, it's always the team first. We just give 100. Yeah, all those kind of default statements that players make. They're just, oh, we're one team. We're not 20 guys. We're one team. We're the logo on the sweater. We're not the guy in the sweater. So he's put himself above the team, and for possibly the worst reasons imaginable. Like, I don't know. It's frustrating to me as somebody who coaches youth, to see how things like Pride Tape. If you look at youth hockey and you look at 10U and even 12U, you see things like Pride Tape and colorful stuff and that type of thing. But as you start to get into the later years, the 14U and the 16U, that Pride Tape goes away. And it's unfortunate because you're not seeing it. The players are afraid to just be supportive because of the reflection that they feel that maybe their teammates or their coaches or other adults within the organization are going to look at them as. So it's unfortunate that something as symbolic as just telling somebody that you don't even know necessarily, just a complete, just a community in general, that you are welcome here, that, I am an ally, is looked upon as threatening to some people. And I'm done ranting. I think I'll just
No,
kind of back off now.
Tom, you brought a lot of great points up, and Brad did too. So I'm going to jump in with a little of this here. So Brad, you did kind of steal my thoughts immediately. My first thought was of Torts defending this when he had the nerve to say that you don't have the free speech right to choose to stand or kneel during an anthem. That is your right. That's why both of our countries are free, because we are allowed to exercise our rights. And for him to say immediately in one breath, I'm benching the very first person or any player that tries to kneel during an anthem, but then says later on about a player who essentially hijacked a night. Let's call it for what it is. He hijacked that night, Pride Night. It's not Pride Night, it's Provorov Night. And for him to say, yeah, I stand by him, is the height of hypocrisy. The height of hypocrisy. And everyone that supported his right to do it, look, I am in agreement. He had every right to do that. It is, that's just the way that for religious reasons or otherwise. Maybe he doesn't like lots of colors on his jersey. I mean, who knows? It doesn't matter. He doesn't have to. The point is that night was meant to say that it doesn't matter what your background is or your belief system is or anything, you are accepted in hockey. And we appreciate you. And the marginalized groups in the LGBTQ plus communities, they face an unbelievable amount of pain and hurt. I know it because I've got people in my family that are in those communities, and every day they deal with it. And I'll tell you, the people that really said, oh, good on Provorov for doing that. Pride has no business being in there. I just can't stand it. These Pride games and stuff. I got news for everyone. Whether you know it or not know it, there's someone in your circle who is part of that community. I guarantee it.
If you don't know it, that's probably a reflection on you.
Exactly.
For those of you who say, I don't have any gay friends or family members, you do. They don't feel comfortable telling you.
No, 100%. 100%, Brad. Thank you. That brings a fine point to it. Brad, you and I, part of our anthem, our mantra in this podcast is hockey is for everyone.
Should be.
Now, Brad, it should be.
Should be for everyone.
Should be for everyone. It is for everyone and should be. It doesn't always work out that way. And we saw an example why, because there's some people that don't think it doesn't belong. Now, you were so great. I mean, you created the very jersey that I'm wearing. You created for me, and there's lots of great things about it. I got the cool A because I'm like an assistant, right? Assistant in all of this.
That's you.
I've got the cool
Lucky
reference to the Whaler, right? The Whalers, my history there. You got my number on here.
Looks good on you.
In honor of
10, right?
In honor of Ron Francis. I've never been a 10, but I appreciate that you would say that. A lot of those things are great. You got it all decked out on the back. It fits me. It's fantastic. Lots of great things about it. There's one thing above all of that. And I wish our listeners could see it. It's right here.
Left shoulder.
It's this
is the
left shoulder
is one of the new incarnations of the LGBTQ plus flag.
This means so much to me because it is something that we both believe in. And I'm not ashamed to, and I'm an ally, okay? Like you, Brad, I have no trouble calling it white privilege. I've had it. People don't understand about privilege because, like you said, they think, oh, I've had a really tough life and stuff. Yes, you've had a tough life, but you've never had a tough life because of the color of your skin or the person that you are. That's never been the reason why you've had a difficult life. So I have questions about how this is going to work out in Philly. I have questions about whether or not this sort of thing now has repercussions across the league for everyone who has a Pride night from this point on. Now, instead of focusing on the inclusionary aspects and how we want to say that hockey is for everyone and we appreciate you, now everything goes back to which player on your team is going to do this again. Is there another player on your team that's going to choose to sit this one out or not wear a Pride thing? Or, like has been already stated, the Canes don't wear Pride jerseys for the warm-up. Maybe it never happens now.
Right.
To avoid this type of thing. I wonder about Provorov on a team with guys like Van Riemsdyk and Lawton, who fought so hard to make this happen, to bring this to fruition. Their hearts are behind this. It means something to them. I wonder if they're on the ice at the same time as Provorov. If Provorov is getting jousted a little, how quickly they want to jump in and help him.
Yeah, I mean, to bring it back to hockey, does it cause any kind of a split in the locker room? And in my mind, maybe not. Maybe it's not a Grand Canyon, but is there probably some kind of a rift there? Maybe.
There's something lingering.
By the same token, not having been around locker rooms for a long time, maybe they're able to just set it aside, right? And the hockey's hockey and everything else is everything else. And as a professional, I can respect that. As a fan and a human being, people being allowed to be who they are is not a political thing.
Yeah.
It's about, so I live in Massachusetts, which is obviously, much different than North Carolina or probably even Calgary. When I wear my jersey out, I don't think I'm the most approachable guy. I'm 6'2" and I'm 300 pounds, and I have a beard, and if I have sunglasses, I kind of fit that type stereotype kind of look sometimes.
Yeah.
But people see me in that jersey, and I've had people come up to me and ask me about it, and I'm like, no, like I host a podcast, and it's important for me that people, visibility matters, right? Representation matters. I'm not a representative of that community. I'm not part of that community, but to have the pride flag on the shoulder of our jersey and people see that, and I've had people ask questions or like, oh, like, people who are gay, been like, oh, like, I can't believe I'm seeing that on a hockey jersey, and they're kind of shocked. And I've had people come up to me, and like I said, I don't necessarily look approachable, especially if I'm wearing a mask and stuff, but they feel comfortable enough to come up and say something or ask me about it or relate in, a story or something. And that makes me feel good. I mean, right? Because, people feel seen, and that's all Provorov had to do, in my opinion, was shut his mouth, wear the jersey for warmups, and then skate. He's not going to get, I don't know what the Russian Orthodox Church, his archbishop isn't going to call him and say, hey, I saw you in a pride jersey.
You're excommunicated. Not like that. Like that's not going to happen.
Here in the States, the Catholic Church officially is against, things like gay marriage. But if you talk to any of the Catholics I know, and I mean people within the church, like they're like, no, I think it's dumb. Like that's a silly rule that we, quote unquote, are officially under. Like I think it's ridiculous. People are people.
Yeah.
So we could spend hours on this topic, and you know what I hate? Even a fun podcast and having Tom on and getting to talk about not necessarily the most fun things with like Patches getting hurt and Svechnikov and that hit and stuff, but instead of talking hockey, we want to once again feel compelled to talk about a hockey related but non-hockey issue that affects tens of millions of people.
Yeah.
This is not a small marginalized group of a few thousand folks out there that are just, like, oh, this is fun to be, have people jump on us. Like, no, this is tens of millions of people. Once again, if you are listening and you're like, oh, I don't know any gay people, you do. They don't feel comfortable telling you.
Yeah.
That's a you thing. And I'm not saying you're actively like, I'm not saying like you're a hateful person. I'm just saying like they may just not know where you stand.
Yeah.
So let them know where you stand and be like, hey, whoever if you're a good person, I'm going to be okay with that. That's what matters, right? That's all that I care about. I don't look at anything other than, do you seem like a decent human being? Do you treat other people as decent human beings? If the answer is yes, we'll get along great. If the answer is no, yeah, we're probably not going to get along, regardless of anything else about you.
Yeah. And here's the thing, Brad, and try to direct this to good times and stuff. We've got, we're under a month for the big event in Raleigh, where you and I are going to be there for 4 days and celebrating a team that we love and stuff like that. You can be dang sure that this jersey is going to be worn.
I think I'm wearing mine for the 16th for Hall of Fame game.
You know what? And the Hall of Fame game, like I'll be wearing my old school New England Whalers jersey. I got one of my good friends joining me. He's got the other opposite wear of that one, and we're going to wear it
look
there.
Great.
But make no mistake, I'm proud to wear this. I'm proud to show this flag because we mean it. And not because we're holier than thou, and pardon the religious reference there, not because we think that we're better than you. It's just the right thing to do.
Yeah, I've told a bunch of people like
for everyone.
We have a lot of people who listen to the program who are part of the community, and if y'all need a dad hug or just whatever, like I'm there.
100%.
If I've said something or done something that you disagree with or didn't like, tell me. I'm open. I'm trying to learn. Right. For me, being an ally for people who, have been marginalized is mostly about being willing to change and listen when people tell you, okay, well, what you're saying or doing doesn't, isn't right or doesn't jive or, because you're right. We don't speak for that community. I'm not part of that community. but I am here to say that I support that community. And if there's ways that I can support that community better, reach out, tell me.
100%. Always, the door is always open.
100%.
Just like the storm cellar. The storm cellar door is always open. And we are so thankful that Tom Workrate joined us here in the studio. Tom,
absolutely good stuff.
Your contributions have been amazing, and it's unfortunate that we have to end on that note, but I'm bringing it back to the amazing guest that you have been, the insight that you've offered, the fact that we've hired you on as our CBA expert to join us. When we need to talk CBA, we're going to be contacting you. Tom, you've made this episode amazing.
And thanks for all you do for the junior Canes. And I'm going to try and tweet at the Canes to see if they can share some more information about the first goal program, and just, because those are awesome initiatives. That's how you grow the game. Like, that's what you're doing is a big part of what your son is doing, right? Is a part of growing the game to a wider audience. And that's what we as hockey fans love to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and the first goal program has grown so much since my son was participated in it that first year, and just seeing how hockey has grown in the Triangle, and seeing all these the House League and the Junior Canes, and there's several other organizations here, the Raleigh Raptors, the NC Golden Bears. I mean, for an area that isn't traditionally known for winter sports necessarily, and that doesn't necessarily have that many ice rinks. So to see that many local travel hockey organizations plus the house leagues that are there, it's great to see, and just the positive influence that the Canes have had. Again, working with both the Junior Canes and other organizations, things like the Capital City Crew, which is an organization that kind of works in conjunction with the Boys and Girls Club of the Triangle to get the people in those programs involved with hockey. It's just really great to see how hockey kind of. We spent a period of time here talking about unfortunately how hockey is kind of pushing some groups out seemingly and that type of thing, but it's also great to see, at least on the youth level, how much it's actually bringing groups together, and hopefully there's that positive momentum that's happening that will again make the game a better place, and not sound overly sappy, but make the world a better place.
Yeah, hopefully our kids can do better than us, right? Hopefully we teach them and they can do better, just like we hopefully are trying to do better than our folks. I mean, I think it's wonderful.
Thank you so much, Tom, and Brad. Very quickly, let's reach out to our listeners to the podcast. If they want to find us, contact us. There's a number of ways they can do so. Brad, I'll let you take care of your part. I'll share mine.
Sure. stormcellar97@gmail.com. Twitter, stormcellar97. On Mastodon, stormcellar97 at I forgot which network it is, but if you search for that, I think you start to find it. And those are the best ways to do it.
100%. And if I don't have that much as far as tied directly to Storm Cellar, but if you want to follow me, if you want to chat, whatever, on Twitter, you'll find me at Judge Wapner 10, a name that I gained very proudly in my connection to this franchise. And feel free to drop us a line. Also, we do have a blog, which I found out about just this week. I totally
very
did
popular
not
blog.
know. A very popular blog. But I'm going to start making a few more posts and sharing information, not just about the trip coming up, because the most recent post on the blog that I made was me doing the countdown for next month and explaining the excitement that is involved in that and the reasons why. But I'll cover other things as well. I've always enjoyed writing, and now that I know we have a blog, I'm going to make Brad my editor. He's going to look over things, make sure that I'm speaking for us properly, and we're going to have some fun with it. This is going to be great. We always want you to get in contact with us, reply to anything that we put out there. Okay, anything. We're big boys. We're both very similar in size and looks. Tom can verify that. He sees our faces. He thinks we're probably long lost brothers from different mothers. It's just unbelievable. But I'll wrap up with this. And we've covered a lot of great topics. We've covered a lot of awesome things. We're down to that point where I guess we have one more thing to say, but for the life of me, I can't remember. Brad, a little help?
Go Canes.
Go Canes.
Thank you everyone for tuning in. Ray and I greatly appreciate your support in helping us produce an informative and fun podcast. As always, we'd like to say that we believe hockey is for everyone. Whether you're a Caniac or a bunch of jerks, doesn't matter, as we're just a couple of jerks anyway. We would love to hear your questions, comments, and suggestions. We will do our best to answer anything hockey related. You can reach us by email at stormcellar97@gmail.com. On Twitter, we are at stormcellar97, and on Facebook at facebook.com/stormcellar97.